Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here to chat all things Leeds United with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, Jason Booker. We've got lots to talk about. Football is finally back. Well, the Premier League anyway. Leeds United in action once again. It was an international break. Jay, did you bother watching much or did you see anything? Because obviously Ampadu and Rodon were playing in the Wales versus England game. I think I watched... Well, I turned it on, and I think Wales were already losing 2-0. I was like, nah, not going to bother with that. And I didn't really bother watching the rest of the other England game either. They've qualified for the World Cup, great, but it don't feel like it did back in the day, does it? Where, you had Beckham's last-minute free kick against Greece, which sends you to the World Cup. England getting a draw against Italy in Rome in 97 or whatever to qualify. It feels a bit like, meh, can we just get back to the Premier League, please?
It's very, the argument of the club versus country has never been further apart for me. I'm just such a big Leeds fan in comparison. And that doesn't mean that I don't wish England the absolute best. And when the tournaments come round, I go mad for it. Yeah. I absolutely love the international tournaments. I love the jeopardy of the knockout, the group stage, all of it. I love it. During the World Cup especially, I will watch every single game. Ecuador versus... Venezuela, whoever, I watch them all because I love it, and I love seeing the different styles of play and the different, it's just amazing, isn't it? And especially if you combine it with somewhere like Africa, when the World Cup were in Africa, the atmosphere, and I love it, absolutely love it. But because international football has been so diluted by so many friendlies, so many international breaks, the jeopardy attached to, especially when you're in the Championship, of injuries happening to some of your key players, because your best players, when you're in the Championship, can be internationals out and Aka going to the other side of the world and all this. It just become annoying. And the games that we're playing during these international breaks, they're just gimmies. They don't even mean anything.
Well, it cost us, didn't it? Were it 2 years ago when the World Cup got knocked out, didn't they? They lost. And then it kind of, I don't know, whether it kind of impacted things or not, but it just feels every time we come back from an international break, especially when we're in the Championship, there was like a lag.
Yeah, well, Dan James missed the deciding penalty in that shootout, didn't he? And he came back a little bit dejected and jaded, and it's a real tough one. So no, I'll be honest with you, mate. I knew we played Wales, and I knew the score. Yesterday, one of my clients at the gym said to me, "Did you watch England?" Didn't even know they'd played, and they'd won 5-0. I genuinely didn't have a clue. So I don't know what that says about me as an England fan, but it just shows where I kind of am with it, because I know we're going to qualify. At least even a few years ago when we got knocked out by Croatia in the group stages, at least then there was some jeopardy. It's almost like I want us to struggle more. I want it to be more competitive. That's all it is. I just don't want it to be a gimme. I'll tell you an interesting one though, and I know this is kind of sending us off on a tangent. I saw yesterday that the Ivory Coast have got one game left to play in their group stage to qualify for the World Cup, and they have not conceded a goal right in their group stage right now. However, they still haven't qualified, and they could go out. They could not qualify at all for the World Cup without conceding a goal, if they draw 0-0 in their next game, and the team in third win. And then the playoff game, they draw 0-0 and lose on penalties. That's how close they are to actually going out without conceding a single goal. They've not conceded one single goal. It's really interesting to go on.
That is mad. Yeah, that's a mad stat, is that? Yeah, he always throws up them kind of things, doesn't it? Those little wacky ones. Yeah, it's true. I agree with you. I was watching a video that was, I think it was doing the rounds on TikTok or something, and it was someone interviewing a Leeds fan outside about England versus Leeds, and it was something like, which would you prefer, Leeds to win the Premier League or England to win the... And the guy was picking England every time. I was like, I literally would pick Leeds to stay up in the Premier League, I think, this season than England in the World Cup. Like, it's gone that gap has grown so big. Like last season, it'd be like, Leeds to get promoted rather than England in the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, I saw the same interview, and it were like there were like 5 people that were said they'd pick Leeds over England, and then there was one guy.
One guy. I was like, what is he doing? And that's the only one I saw. You see, just that guy.
No, the other ones all said Leeds over England, but they started off by saying win the Premier League, and then they changed it to would you take Leeds just staying up this season over England winning the World Cup? And they were all still like, yeah, we'd pick Leeds. And I'm exactly the same. I mean, I'd add Leeds on goal difference on the last game of the season, finishing 17th over England winning the World Cup. I genuinely would. Like, for me, the only thing that really matters in football is Leeds United. It's there all the time, and it's a consistent. It's like a religion. It's a cult.
It is, absolutely. No, I agree. And like you say, when tournament comes on, I love it, and I fully back England. But yeah, Leeds United all day long. Just something I saw this morning, and I want to kind of get your immediate reaction to it. I don't know when this has dropped, but Harry Gray is now eligible for a professional contract.
Just seeing it.
Yeah, and this is on his Instagram. This is what his Instagram currently looks like. It's the dreaded blackout of Instagram, where they don't have a profile photo, they don't mention their affiliation to the club that they play at or anything like that, and it's got tongues wagging because obviously he is eligible for that professional contract. I think Graham Smith in the Yorkshire Evening Post has said Leeds are still expecting it to be when rather than if, but it does kind of make you kind of question what's going on a little bit there. I mean, off the bat, it would be desperately, desperately bad news if we did see him leave the club, wouldn't it? Because he's probably the only one who looks kind of like he's got the potential to play for Leeds in the Premier League. And what does it say about the state of the game as well, where you're just having these gems snatched off you? And as Leeds fans, we're battered and bruised by it. We know that the players we've lost over the last 20 years, it's something else. But yeah, what do you think? Do we need to read too much into that? I mean, it's a little bit like what's going on there, but you don't know social media, isn't it?
You don't know if he's just playing a little bit of a game. He's trying to, maybe his people have told him to put a bit of pressure on Leeds. You don't know, do you? I mean, I saw I always forget his name. The lad that went to Man City from us a couple of years ago. He got identified as one of the top 2,500 kids of this year or something like that. It is a sorry state of affairs to the game. It is, but you know what? This isn't new. It's been happening for a long time, and we can also sit here and say, "Oh, woe Leeds United," because we've done this to clubs further down the
we've done it,
and we've been doing it at a different perspective for the last 10, 15 years. We've been going and stealing Bradford's best academy products and going and stealing Farsley's and whoever else is, Halifax's. We're picking all them up as well. So we've got to be careful that we're not just moaning and groaning about it. I think the tricky element of this comes in that so many of them will go to Man City, will go to Spurs, will go to Manchester United, and then not ever get an opportunity and go back into the system. It's a very much a farm environment, and it's a bit gross, if I'm honest. It's part of the reason why I ended up coming away from working for Leeds United, because I don't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like how it looked and felt. It's not Leeds United's fault. It's the system. And there's very little that you can do about it, Browney. Very, very little.
Yeah, I agree. But, what about the responsibility of the people that are looking after them as well? And obviously we know the Gray dynasty and the Gray family, and this isn't necessarily about Harry and his situation, but I think it's a pretty sad state when you get someone who, a player who could have made perhaps 300, 400 appearances for a club, and then ends up as one of these kind of farm products that is just sitting on a bench and then eventually falls by the wayside. I think there has to be more responsibility on these agencies and the agents to look out for the interest rather than just the bottom dollar. And it's Man City, you're going to get a load of money. Great, yeah, woo. We know money is such a big factor in everything, but I just wish there was a bit more of a broader view of legacy and actually playing and what you could become if you don't go down that route.
The problem that comes with this is that 99% of players that come through the academy won't make it. And the agents know that. Now, the club potentially signing the potential of the player don't know that either. So if they're prepared to pay 5 million, which is what they paid for Finlay Gorman, at 15, that's a huge markup for Leeds United on a player that might progress into not even being a League One level player.
Yeah.
And that is the likelihood. It's not likely that he will go on to play first team football.
Yeah.
For Leeds or for Man City. So and for every one that does make it, like Phil Foden. You remember when Phil were coming through, and he kept on breaking through, and then people were like saying he should get a loan, and they kept him, didn't they? And they just stuck. They were He was one of a I would say probably 300-400 that Man City will have looked at, identified, and then no. Yeah. So for every one Phil Foden, there's probably 200-300 that'll just go back into the system. So it's a real tricky one because the club have to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, they are rare, but then there's the other argument of, well, if you don't keep them and develop them, how will you know? You know, the development of a player like Archie Gray, just say for as an example, would it have been better served for his long-term career as a footballer being at Leeds United than it would have been over going to Spurs? Now, I think Archie Gray probably made the right choice, if I'm honest. Yeah. I think he's played enough to kind of say he probably made the right call. But for every Archie Gray, there's a Simon Walton who went to the Premier League and never played a game. There's countless others, you know, that we've sold on that have then never gone on to do anything. So it is a real tricky one. It is a real tricky one to get right.
Oh, yeah, I think you make great points. I think it is more nuanced than probably how I framed it, to be honest.
Gavin's point is just making me laugh. Never hear anything about Finlay Gorman at City. Lad's just turned 16.
I'll have a look. He is breaking the news, isn't he?
He's literally just been identified as one of the top 25 potential wonder kids in the world. I mean, I'm contradicting my point now because your point is actually backing up my point. But
yeah,
we might not. We have no idea whether Finlay Gorman will make a first team appearance for City or not. I would, if I had to bet my house on it right now, the only bet that you could make would be that he wouldn't, because he's got to be better than 11 of the best world-class players in the world to make that grade up. Yeah. So, you know, the likelihood is that he won't make that. Hopefully for him, he's good enough to play Premier League football somewhere else if he's not good enough at City. But the likelihood is you'll see him fall back down the ladder. I mean, Lewis Bate was Chelsea's captain and came into Leeds with such a huge reputation. He's playing League One football. You know, I do like him, but that's the truth. There's countless others. I mean, we had a bunch of midfielders all around that time that kind of threatened to break in. Noah Kenner, I remember, ended up playing at Shrewsbury. We had the other two midfielders, Robbie Gotts. There's countless of them. The other Irish lad who had a League Two loan at Carlisle.
I know you mean, God, tipping the tongue. But but look at Charlie Crew now. I mean, there's no guarantee. I mean, Charlie Crew now. I mean, what's going to happen there with that? You know, there's no guarantee that he's going to kind of get back. And I think what it is with Harry Gray, I think what would sting there. Obviously, you got the Gray aspect, and I think there's a pathway for Gray at Leeds, and that I don't think a lot of youth products get. I think there's quite a clear, you know, he's already broken into the squad. He's had a taste of first team training with the first team. It feels like it's kind of been forged for him, whereas obviously 99% of academy products never get that. Whereas I think he's got all the, you know, he's got the benefit obviously of being fantastically talented and a lot of potential, but the name helps and everything around it. And I think I would be really, really disappointed if we lost Harry Gray. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I saw somebody comment on the post that you just identified there, say if Harry Gray leaves, Eddie Gray should be stripped of the ambassador role.
I saw that.
And I'm like, because
poor Eddie, bloody hell.
And he's making the argument that, well, if Eddie can't keep his family at the club, then what's the point? I'm like, what world are these people on? We do have some.
Can you imagine poor Eddie getting frog marched out of Eleanor? Yeah. Right, go on. I don't care. You're 80. Go on. You've done nothing. Get out of it. Yeah.
Harry definitely has been given a bit of a pathway. You know, Daniel Farker put him on the pitch last season, which is huge at 16-year-old. Is he going to be the prestigious talent of a James Milner, of an Alan Smith, of, you know, some of these others that have come through? Who knows? To play Premier League football is extremely difficult. He's made the Premier League bench already, albeit when we've had a couple of injuries, but he has been on the bench. I'm sure at some point he'll make his debut if we're safe at some point this season and there can be a game for him. But we have no idea how good he is. I've seen him in person, but it were under 18s level. I think the game looked very good, movement excellent. You know, and he's got a bit of a killer finish. He's very composed in front of goal. You can see that he's got a bit of a swag and a bit of an attitude about him. You can see that in the celebrations. He's not overawed by being in and around the first team and dealing with that. You know, that kind of comes in line with same with Archie, that he's been born into Leeds United. He's been in and around it for a long time. Harry will have been meeting the first team players from him being about 2 years old. It's all he'll ever know. So that it's not a surprise, really. And just hopefully he wants to kind of see the dynasty through. It'd be nice. And hopefully it becomes so good that we just can't keep hold of him, but it's for 60, 70 million quid. That's the only hope we can really have right now. Because the other eventuality is that somebody puts a bid in, if he does sign a contract, that's just too good to refuse before we know how good he is, and then he disappears. I think Archie would have stayed at Leeds if we'd have got promoted. I feel almost certain he would have done. So hopefully the family kind of feel around that will be that his early production is best served at Leeds.
Yeah, you would think so. And I wonder about the long-term situation as well, because you do have to produce your own players. But and I'm using Football Manager as my guide here. I always have a difficulty in Football Manager. If I get a team into Europe, the homegrown products are not good enough to actually be in the squad, but then you need to meet the at least 4 homegrown produced players. But if a player is trained at your club for 3 years between 18 and 21, they qualify. So what ends up happening, I'm getting like all these Colombian and Brazilian for about 18. They're really good. And then by 21, they count as your produced player. Yeah. I mean, is that what clubs are doing in real life? Because 100%. I'm looking around clubs going, who has homegrown products from the academies in the teams? I can't think of barely any teams that do.
That's exactly what's been happening for a number of years. That's why you see players like Oscar Bob, popping up, who's obviously not come through from being 10-year-old in Manchester, and they bought him over. Man United have been doing it for years. Think about the Brazilian twins; they were exactly that. They've had several. I mean, they had a really good one that's just gone to Real Madrid this summer. He ended up going back to Portugal. Like Alvarez, a left back, he were exactly the same. The clubs have been doing this for years and years and years. You're absolutely right. Moises Caicedo, Brighton, when they first signed him, he was 16, 17, signed him from an Ecuadorian club and brought him over because he's so much better than what the talent were at the same age. You know what I mean? So, 100%.
And that's why why Chelsea paid such a high fee, because then you've got a British trained player, haven't you, as well? You know, although it's not classed as homegrown for them, it's still a British trade, so it helps in some way. Just checking this one, Gavin, as well. Wow, Milner 10 games away from the Premier League all-time appearance record.
Being Gareth Barry.
Produced by Leeds United, of course. I think that's what blurs this a little bit as well, Jay, is I have that kind of rose-tinted, Alan Smith and Woody and Ian Hart, when these guys came through together, and that's what's supposed to happen. You know, it's like the ultimate fan dream, isn't it? That you get 5 or 6 academy products that drive you forward. But it's,
we were very lucky during that period, one way. I mean, them teams don't really exist anymore. I don't think other teams really do that either. I mean, you look through that team and we could have probably made a whole 11. If you think Robinson, Kelly, Woodgate, Hart, I mean, you can go into Stephen McPhail, Harry Kewell, Bats was still there at the time, Smith. And there were ones
like Milner, who were just a year or two later, weren't they, as well? Coming through.
Very, very rare. But I mean, that team won the Youth Cup, and the Youth Cup meant a lot at the time. I mean, Manchester United used to dominate it, and that team actually won it. It was a generational kind of block of talent, was that? So, and as for James Milner, I mean, me and you have kind of spoke off air about this a few times. For me, he's the best product that Leeds United have ever produced. And I know that there's been others that have probably had more individual talent. I look at Harry Kewell, Eddie Gray. You could maybe go, if you're going to go back in generations. But in terms of what he's achieved, for me, James Milner is, without a doubt, the best product that's ever come through the Leeds United academies. Unbelievable player, unbelievable pro as well to be able to achieve what he has.
Yeah, I would have loved him to have been back at the club. I just wonder, maybe when he does hang up his boots when he's 50 or something, if he might then decide, like Johnny Housen, maybe come back and get him in a role. Because, for me, it's nice to get those players. I mean, someone like him, his experience, can you imagine if you get him into your system? But he's going to be in demand, isn't he? Just from the way he is as well, just what a top pro he's been. I mean, he's not going to have any short of offers, and I'd love to see Leeds lean on the connection to see if we can get him involved, because it'd be great to see him back.
I'd imagine that he'd probably go into management.
Yeah.
Funny, because it seems to be a bit of a flavour of the way that the club have operated over the last 2 years, getting ex-pros back in, because we got Gardner, I forget his first name, but he came through the Leeds youth system, then had a bit of a non-league career. Johnny Howson's come back in. Aaron Lennon also manages our under-18s now, I think it is.
Yeah, Jesus,
there's a few kicking about ex-pros that have come through at Leeds that are now back at the club. So, I mean, I definitely think conversations will have happened, and I would have been surprised if they didn't happen this summer as well. The summer just gone for James Milner, because it just makes so much sense. It'd have been a free transfer. I can only believe that James Milner had probably got settled at Brighton, got offered another year, and it just made sense to stay down there. But yeah, it is a shame that we couldn't have got him back. It wouldn't have just been a nostalgic signing for me. It'd have been a very, very, very smart signing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Great point here, Gav. I didn't have this on my list of topics, but actually, thank you for bringing this up, because I do want to touch on this. Ruined by disastrous owners over the years. Talk of Rads attending the West Ham game. Andrea Radrizzani, former owner of Leeds United, and he's been doing the rounds, and he said he'd looking at coming back for the West Ham Leeds United game, and obviously it kind of sparks lots of opinions and whatnot. My position on it is, I look at Andrea's time at Leeds United as a huge turning point into where the club was and where it is now. I think without him, we don't get to this stage. We'd had basket case owners. He was the first one in God knows how long who had an air of legitimacy about him. He hired people. He hired Victor Orta to make the sporting decisions. We have to make that very clear. He also was the man that employed Marcelo Bielsa. Bielsa stayed at Leeds longer than he's ever stayed at a club. So that tells you something about how he was managed from above, that there must have been something on the side. It went badly wrong, no doubt about it. And when, all that stuff of, he's trying to buy Sampdoria when we're just about getting relegated, and Ellen Rhodes part of the kind of deal. And yes, at the time I was very, very angry, really annoyed by Radrizzani, and really disappointed to how it ended up. But, in the cold light of day now, I look back and go, I'm absolutely fine. He's probably the only owner of the last 20 years. If you look at Cellino and Bates, no, thank you. But Radrizzani, I have no problem with. I have absolutely no problem with. And I think, it's going to spark a lot. There's going to be fans that are just like, no, he's just this, he's just that. And, like Gav says, what he tried to do at the end was shocking. And I know as soon as you start talking about Ellen Road as part of loans and all this kind of thing, I know it triggers a lot, but I think you have to look at the overall situation. Look, there were tons of missteps, the badge redesign and Myanmar tours and all that. We get all that. But I think overall, it's a turning point for Leeds. And let's not abuse him. If he does come back, when you hear about the kids getting abused and stuff, I'm just like, can we not do that, please? Jesus.
Can we just not be that way?
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you, mate. I mean, he is without a doubt the best ownership we've ever had since we won the league in '92.
Yeah.
You can't even argue it, because the ownership that we had directly after that was the one that took us into the meltdown. And then we all know the list of mess that we had after that: GFH, Krasner, Ken Bates. It gets worse and worse. GFH, Cellino. We were a laughingstock for years until Radrizzani got hold of us. And yeah, you're right, there were missteps. But without him, we don't have the best period of Leeds United that we've had in the last 25 years. We all talk so fondly about the Marcelo Bielsa era. And yeah, that was as a direct responsibility of Marcelo Bielsa. But without Radrizzani, that doesn't get facilitated. And you spot on, like, Marcelo Bielsa is our god. However, he can't be easy to manage.
No.
I bet he's an absolute nightmare to manage, actually. And Radrizzani managed that and he gave him everything. He gave him everything he wanted. You want the pool reopening? Yep, we got it. Right? You want sleeping quarters? Yep, you got it. You want him to pick litter up? You've got it. Like, everything that he wanted, he got. Yeah. And apart maybe from some transfers in season 2 of the Premier League. But you know, there's going to be it eventually outgrew Radrizzani's capabilities, and I think he's been big enough to say that. Like, he didn't have the money and the facilities to really be able to go and do what the 49ers are capable of doing, as an example, over the next 2-3 years, we hope. So, you know, for me, Radrizzani will always be held quite favourable. The way that it kind of ended was obviously messy, but we as fans only hear what the papers want us to see. And I'm not saying that didn't happen, but the context around it will have probably been a little bit different than what we heard. You know, we don't know whether the 49ers were actually that deep into buying us at that point. Chelino's looking at all sorts of different potential opportunities and situations. He's a businessman at the end of the day that's, you know, dealing with his assets. And I'm not excusing what he did. Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate that we don't know fully the circumstances and scenario, and he had the right to do whatever he wanted, really. It's his business. So for me, he will always be held in quite high esteem, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, like Gavin mentions here about Orta, you know, and that's what you do. You hire people to make decisions. And Orta got a lot wrong. You know, got some things right, but, you know, we know what that whole situation was like. Anyways, back to the present. Leeds United sporting director Adam Underwood, he's been doing a couple of rounds as well, I think, with BBC, and pretty standard stuff, saying, you know, that the Whites are on course to kind of improve the league standing. And he says having competitive success is always going to be the immediate focus for the sporting director, but around that, as a foundation for sporting success, there has to be a long-term view for how you develop the club, build the infrastructure, and create the conditions for success to happen and increase the chances of happening over a period of time. You know, obviously he got a lot of stick. He's probably felt the first, you know, flames of the fire of what it can be like in the football world when the spotlight and your name is out there. But, you know, speaks well, I think, and you know, he's going to have a huge task, obviously, to move the club forward. But so far, the strategy is holding up, Jay.
Yeah, I think, again, we were flapping a little bit. There were a little bit of panic during the end of the window, and thankfully, performances since the end of the window have kind of dissipated us a little bit. They've appeased us. We've kind of then had to kind of check ourselves and go, you know what, the recruitment team seems to have got it right again. And we're now being told the information that, you know, spending was going to always be tight. We didn't get the sales in that we kind of maybe expected that we would have done. This is what we had to work with. And outside of one 10/ right winger, we got everybody that we wanted. We have to kind of take that on face value. We've seen the improvements of the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Mecha probably offering more than we thought initially that they could. And we look very competitive. And we're in a trajectory in which we are building. We've got to stay up this season. That's all that matters. And they have now, on the face of it, given us enough to stay up with. So, yeah, so far so good, really. And hopefully, we just keep on picking up the points and picking up the results that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. Starting with a huge game at the weekend. It's Burnley, who were promoted with us, obviously, last season. You know, and it's one of those fixtures we were looking out for at the start, and that's the kind of fixture you're eyeing up and going, you know, what can we do there? Can we get points? And it's certainly a team that we're looking to get points from. They've got one win so far, 1 draw, 5 losses. They're in the 17th place at the moment at Burnley. That defensive kind of strength or strong point from the Championship, obviously that's gone. You know, they've conceded, I think, at the moment 15 goals in 7 games. You know, and it's always going to be a step up, and it was always going to be tougher. Does this feel to you like the first, I don't want to say first big game of the season, but does this feel like there's more pressure to get a result than what we've had so far? Because I felt like against Bournemouth and Spurs, it's like, let's see what we can do. Can we get, you know, a couple of points? Can we win a game? And we were very close, really unlucky not to beat Bournemouth. What's your kind of mindset going into this Burnley game? You know, we've talked before, we don't think it's a must-win game, but where are you in terms of what Leeds need to do in this game?
It feels a little bit like the Wolves game. The Wolves game felt very similar because going into that game, they would have then lost 5 in a row and they ended up losing 5 in a row. And, they were the first yardstick 6-pointer. And we came through that with flying colours. We actually played extremely well that day. It feels very much like that. I said to you when we spoke about it last week that it feels like a must not lose. And I still feel like that. I think it's a must not lose. Excuse me. I think this is a massive game for them. I think it's a massive, massive game. In many ways, this might actually be a must win for them. Because without the momentum of winning this game, if they're not going to beat Leeds at home, then who are they going to beat?
Yeah.
They're just not going to pick up enough points to stay upright. I mean, 3 teams have to go down. So when they're looking at this, they'll be saying this is a must win considering the way that the season started. So given that's the fact, it actually probably puts more pressure on them and makes them more open. They're going to actually have to come out and actually have a go. I think they will, if I'm honest. I think they'll go to win this game. I don't think it'll be... If you remember when we played Burnley at Turf Moor last year, the 0-0 ball fest, the team like they wanted to win the game. Yeah, it were one of them kind of games. And for us, it were a better point for us than it was for them. And it turned out that way. Actually ended up winning as a division. So, it's a real tricky one. I don't think it'll be a great game to watch as such. I still think there'll be large parts of the game where it'll be tentative. There'll only be a goal in it either way, I think. But hopefully, if we start well, we can blow them away. I really do believe that. I think we are better than them. We've seen that through the 7 games so far. I think we're better than Sunderland as well. But away from home, it's always going to be tricky. So, I mean, if you could offer me a point now, I take it, because you're not only taking another point on the board, you are stopping another 2 points being on the board for one of the teams that are probably going to finish in the bottom 3. So it is an out-and-out 6-pointer. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Like I'm looking forward to it. I'm not stressed by it. We're looking forward to the Wolves game when we went into that one. And as long as we come out of it with something, I think it's a result for us. I think 4 points out of these next 2 is really good.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's going to be interesting, and it'll be fascinating to see what that conversation is at full time, because you can really sense where people are going to be at. If we win, it's fantastic. If we lose, it's, you can imagine what that is going to generate. And then if it's a draw, it's a kind of, okay, great, we've got a point, but I mean, if we win, Jay, I mean, it's an opportunity to really open up a gap, isn't it?
Well, again, similar to when we opened up the gap against Wolves, we were 7 points in front of Wolves when we beat them. That's straight away, I mean, really tricky to overturn, even early on in the season. I would go as far as saying, and I know this is bold, but if we were to take 6 points out of 6 in the next 2, I'd say we've got 1 foot in the Premier League next season. I really would. Like, that'd put us on, what would that be?
That'd
14
be 14 points,
4 wins out of the opening 10. That's massive. I mean, you're already nearly halfway there. 10 wins really is what we're aiming for. You're already talking about nearly being there. So, we do need to find ways of picking up these points. And the more we can take the pressure off ourselves, the better. I mean, it's definitely a winnable game. 100% a winnable game. But I personally think every away game, you have to be prepared to be okay with a point. Because picking points up away from home is extremely difficult. Yeah.
I think that's really sensible. I think that's what we've got to remember. A point is not a loss if that happens. I can personally see another 0-0, to be honest. Not for lack of wanting to score, but I just think it's going to be so intense and so high pressured. And I think, the teams have had an international break. I think they will have been drilled within an inch of their lives on the training ground. Which will be fascinating. Obviously, we've got Farke's press conference. I think that'll be happening this afternoon. As far as we know at the moment, it's a clean bill of health, obviously, apart from Dan James. You've got Bijol knocking at the door. He's had 2 games international, no goals conceded. His manager saying, I don't know how you can't pick this guy. You've got Rodon, who, despite Wales' defeats, actually came out with a lot of credit.
Flying, isn't it?
Absolutely flying. Nonto, obviously, a couple of weeks down the line, should be a little bit, hopefully a bit fitter, unless there's been any setbacks. And then you've got Perry, who has had a couple extra weeks training as well. So some interesting lineup choices, decisions that he can make? What are you expecting out of Frank? Do you think he's just going to stick to what we saw in the last game, or do you think there might be an opportunity for one or two to come in?
I think Brendan will start. I think Brendan will 100% start on that, right? And I think he should. This ain't me just being a Brendan fanboy, but I genuinely think he should start away from home against Burnley. Makes a lot of sense. He's probably going to be more of what we're going to need in the early parts of the game, and then you bring on to one to change the game later if he's fit. I think Perry will come back in. If I'm honest, I do. I think he'll come back in. I have a sneaky feeling Yaka might start. I just have a feeling in my 2 games back to back after the way that Pascal played in that last game, he, in my opinion, was bought to start games.
Yeah.
So when do you bring him in if not now? Does it
have 90 minutes on it? So
yeah. How much worse does it have to get, and how much more ready does he have to be? The only argument I suppose you could make is that he hasn't been training at the club for the last week or whatever it'd be, and well, he's been playing them 2 games, but I would like to see him in. I would. Like, I think he improves us. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think it needs to be any more, complex. I just think he's a better player.
Well, we always used to have those debates, didn't we, about the players that weren't playing, whether it was Gellart or even Lewis Bay or Ryan Edmondson, if you want to go back beyond that. But the difference with Bijol is, the money we've spent, the reputation, his statistical, levels, it feels like this isn't just one of those debates. This is a proper, okay, we've genuinely got someone who can improve us. Yeah. Because, looking at those strike, the issues with Strike, especially last game, letting players run at him. He lets players have so much space against him. When players are running at him, I'm like, oh, this is, and we've seen that 2 or 3 goals that way now. So if there's any tweaks or anything you can do it. My only issue is I don't know. I'm not sure I can see Farke changing it, to be honest. It feels like Strike's a little bit of his man. He's his vice captain, and it seems to it can take a lot for him to kind of change something, especially in that defensive region.
I hear it. Yeah, I hear it. I'm definitely conflicted with it because I know, based on what we've seen from Farke, he's reluctant to make changes unless there's an injury or a suspension. And that's when you then get your opportunity. That tends to be the way that it plays out. I just don't know. I just feel it. I'll probably be completely wrong. Yeah, I could be completely wrong. But I just, like I said, I just think he improves us. Said it for as long as I can bloody say it. I saw somebody, I'm not going to say the creator's name, but I saw somebody in social media earlier on this week question whether Ampadu should be dropped for Tanaka. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
Like, and I mean, that's the other question, isn't it? That's the other conundrum as to what happens in the midfield. Does Tanaka come in for Stark, Longstaff, or do we go with the same 3? I have a gut feeling he'll stay with the same 3 in that area, especially if Bijol comes in. He ain't going to make wholesale changes all over the pitch. It's not going to happen. So I have a feeling that it'll be the same 3. But if he does come in, I have a feeling he'd come in for Longstaff and Stack would go and do that role. I think he will want to keep Stack in the team.
Yeah.
Even though I think based on what we've seen on the pitch, if you were to ask me out of the 3 which one I think should be dropped if you're going to bring Tanaka in, I would pick Stack. You know what I mean? Even though that makes the most logical sense in terms of what we've seen, I don't think it's what Daniel Farke will do.
It's fascinating, really, because in the opening game against Everton, I thought the 3 were really good. Stack, Ampadu, and Tanaka. I thought they brought something really good, and I kind of thought that is the 3. But I think Longstaff, fantastic performances, and also giving himself this other dimension of being a bit of a leader and also taking set pieces. I think can't really live without that. I don't think at the minute, his delivery, because nobody else seems to be able to do it. For me, probably the question mark is on Stack. You're playing Burnley, so someone like Tanaka. I thought Tanaka looked good when he came on against Spurs. He gave us that kind of push forward, that impetus. It's gonna be fascinating. It's really fascinating. But I do love that we've got that level of depth, and someone, whether it's whoever starts, whoever doesn't, at least we've got some real genuine quality to bring on.
I won't change it, Brownie. in that area of the pitch. I made the point last week, people were calling for Stack to be dropped for Tanaka for this game. I actually see it the other way. I think Stack's physicality in there and his level should absolutely blow Burnley away. I think that midfield three will be the make or break of winning this game. So for me, I would keep it exactly as it is in that area of the pitch. I would change Biol for Strike, and that'd be it. Oh, and Perry. I just think that the argument of Perry, I know people will say that Darlow's done all right. I would say he's done all right, but I think at the same time, I don't think he stood out. There is an argument to say that he could have done better with both of the goals. I saw a content creator make the point that when the deflection took it over him on the first one, he actually already reacted to the deflection, and he still couldn't change it. You know what I mean? Like, he could see it happening, but still couldn't. And I made the point last week about Nick Pope. Would Nick Pope have kept them in front in that game? Would Nick Pope have saved the chance that Bournemouth scored in the last minute of the game? I've made that point on that one. I'm not saying it was goalkeeper error, but could he have pulled something out, like a 90th minute winner at the other end, to see us win the game? I think a top keeper would, and Perry's got that capability, and Darlow hasn't. Darlow's a safe pair of hands. So,
sorry, go ahead, mate.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, I think Darlow's been the perfect second keeper to come in when your minimum is not there. And I think the last couple of games, you can see that level. I think when he first came in those couple of games, I thought he was outstanding. And then I think there's been a slight, not tailing off, and that's probably a bit harsh, but just like you say, those little things that just separate, those top keepers to someone who's kind of sat on the bench for a while. And I think he's had 2 weeks in training, Perry. Let's get him back in, because like you said, those could be the differences.
What's really amused me over the last couple of weeks is that you've seen people argue that Darlow's much better with his feet, and he is better at the minute than Perry with his feet. But these same people were screaming blue murder that Darlow needed to come in for Meslier when Meslier was better with his feet. If you remember when Darlow came in last season, he looked awful with his feet, and he looked like he really struggled. And Ilan was very, very good with the ball at his feet. And we've seen the difference between the three of them now if you compare them over the last 12 months. But it's funny, because it is funny how things change. Even though Darlow now is considered a safer pair of hands than Meslier in goal, he is. Yeah. But he's probably not as safe as Perry, but he's better with his feet. And it's like, well, what do you want? Because you've been screaming blue murder that you didn't want somebody that was good with the feet for 2 years. You know what I mean? So I think that we need to just coach Perry into being better in that area of the game and get him in for what he's good at, which is shot stopping.
Just like for his long balls, just hit fine Calvert-Lewin. Look, just fine Calvert-Lewin. Look, if just that's your man, you just aim for him. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be fancy, does it? It really doesn't have to be fancy. So it's going to be fascinating. Jadon Anthony. Now there's a name, isn't there? And he's had quite a start, hasn't he? Four goals and 1 assist in just 3 games.
You put him in FPL, wouldn't you? He's one of the top midfielders in the game.
Yeah, can you imagine? But I mean, in terms of Burnley and it I think it's amazing, the punditry around stuff and people saying, I think Burnley, they're going to carry on that defensive stability in the Premier League from the Championship, because, it's like, well, it doesn't work like that, does it, at all? And obviously they are conceding goals. It feels like they're at a dangerous point, I would say, Burnley, where they're losing games and they've sunk into that relegation zone. And it feels like if they lose this at home to a team they got promoted with, that would be so damaging for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would. Like I said earlier, it's an absolutely huge game for them. It's not, because anything can happen, but it feels like a must-win for them. Yeah. And I think them as a management team, the players, they'll be looking at this and saying, this really is a game that we need to win. And if they don't, they'll be looking at it afterwards like, well, where do we go from here? What can we do in this division if we can't beat Leeds at home? That sounds a bit disparaging towards Leeds, because I think we know that we're better than that to be in that equation. But as the reality stands right now, the teams that you need to beat at home are Sunderland and Leeds if you're a Burnley player, fan, manager. So it does feel massive for them. And I think like I said, I think that'll make part of what will make for a great game. Yeah. For a Leeds and Burnley perspective, I think it'll be gripping. You know what I mean? It'll be really intense.
Mate, you know what I'll be like? Yeah. What am I going to be like?
I made the jest the other day, didn't I? That meme that we're flying around of them all flapping when you're losing a game, and it's you two when the opponents get a corner after 2 minutes into a game, and Brown is already losing it.
Yeah. All right, I caught myself when I can't remember which game it was, and we had like I don't know relatives over watching it, and it was like 2 minutes into the game, and I was like, I was like, oh, fucking hell, because he had a corner. I was like, I need to calm down. I'm gonna have a heart attack by the 90th minute.
It just does it to you, doesn't it? It does it to you, mate. It does. I find it doing it less. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying this season in comparison, because I don't go into every game thinking, well, this is win or bust. Like last season, we had to win nearly every single game. I mean, we won 20-something games or whatever it was. I can't even remember how many games we won, but we lost so rarely that anything other than a win felt like heartbreak. I remember us conceding late at home in a 2-2 draw. I think it was Blackburn at home. Somebody at home anyway, and it just felt like the world had ended, and we've conceded 2 late goals this season, and I'm just like, disappointed, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Whereas last season, it just felt like promotion was over. That's it. Right.
Yeah.
Throw it all away.
Well, this is it. Like the worst for me was the last Premier League campaign where you would get smashed to pieces by Liverpool or something. You lost 6-0 or something, and you've got the whole week till the weekend where you're playing like Everton away, and that's shit as well. And it's like just one real shit performance and result after another, and the week in between used to be like torture, because you'd just be like, oh my god, this is hell. Whereas this season, what I find myself actually switching off from it, because I'm kind of happy with it and comfortable. I'm switching off from it, which is, like you say, not even in the Championship, because there was just no let up. Like you say, you had to win every game and you're chasing this goal. I feel like I've been able to switch off in between games this season.
100%. I've watched less content than I've ever watched at the minute, because I've been able to kind of free my mind from it. I agree with you completely. One thing I do want to say, though, just before we wrap up, because I know you're going to have to go in a sec, I've made the point that this season has been really encouraging because the performances have been good, and it's left me with confidence that we can build into the season. I actually think over the next 2 games, I don't care. I think the performances are nowhere near as important as the results over the next 2.
Yeah.
The result matters more. And I think against Bournemouth and Spurs, there's a point where the performance matters more than the result in a weird way for the trajectory of the season. These 2 games don't apply to that.
Yeah.
We need to get points. And I think, even 2 points wouldn't be the end of the world, because again, what it does to them in terms of taking available points away from the opponents and where they are in the league and stuff like that. So I just wanted to stress that I think like the results over the next 2 are absolutely huge.
Yeah, it can be a stinker, can't it?
It can.
90th minute, Calvert-Lewin, we'll take it. We don't care.
2 1-0 stinky wins, I would absolutely take them. Where we don't deserve it, we were crap. We had 1 shot on target, we have 0.5 XG, and they have 2. Like, I don't care. Like, we take a couple of them.
Do you know what? We're owed one of them, actually. A smash and grab. Under Farker, we very rarely. Well, A, we never really get outplayed.
Yeah.
And B, I can't remember an undeserving win under Farker. It's mad. I'm trying to think. I'm like, who did we get an undeserved win against? I can't think of anyone, really.
It's very, very rare. Because of how much domination we have in it. And I mean, outside of Arsenal this season, I'd say that we've deserved, if you were going to pick a winner out of every game, I would say we've deserved to win every single one of them. The only one that I would argue maybe against would be Fulham away. I think there were large parts of the Fulham away game where we offered very little, and we were good value for a point, but we probably didn't deserve to win it. I think they did enough in the last 20 minutes if you had to pick a winner, right? But I think the rest of the games, including Spurs, I think we were really good value for the win. So it's testament to Daniel Farker, isn't it?
Just very quickly before we go, Sunderland Wolves is another 3 o'clock kickoff there, massive game at the Stadium Light. They've got a couple of injury issues now, Sunderland. Noah Sadiq is out as well. So another massive opportunity there. We'll wait and see, because Wolves will be desperate.
Well, they're getting desperate now, aren't they? Yeah, they're still not got to win yet. They had a last-minute equaliser against Spurs that cost them 3 points, and then they had a last-minute equaliser against Brighton, which cost them 3 points. Or late, not last minute, but so I think they're sat on 2 points. Are they? I think it is. so they'll be kind of thinking like, where are these points coming from? They don't look like, well, they don't look like winning the game, do they really? So
no. Right, we're going to leave it there. I've got a dash, but thank you everyone who's watched live. If you can like the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in. If you're watching this again later, please do the same as well. Myself and Jay, we will give our reaction to the Leeds versus Burnley game. Huge game for the Whites. Come on, Leeds. Here we go. But I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker as well. Jason, thank you, mate.
cheers, mate.
And we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.